Alright, what do we have here? So, this is 6S, 3000 milliamp hours, 75C battery, and it's a monster, an absolute monster. But I think that's why the frame is designed the way it is, so that you can get a monster battery on top of it. So you can see that this battery will fit, leaving some room. But is it a flying battery or is it a flying quadcopter? I don't know. Anyway, I was a bit worried that these were going to be too big, because this is like nearly 600 grams. But actually, I think this is a good size. Lots of juice. Nice. 75C means that it can deliver 75C times 3000 or 3 amp hours. So if my math is correct, 225 amps continuously. And this ESC can deliver 55 amps across 4 ESCs, so that's 220 amps. So quite a nice match up there. Both of these will go higher on a spike, but you know, a good match between the ESC and the battery, and hopefully this should give decent amounts of power and long endurance. So what also has arrived is the motors. And these are 2806.5, 13 kilovolts. So they're lower kilovolts because we're going to use a 6S battery. And look at that. These are a thing of beauty. It's just superb engineering. Really, really nice. Very fine tolerances. Yeah, just amazing. And then also got some 10 gauge wire and some XT90 plugs, because the pigtail that comes with the ESC is only 12 gauge wire, which isn't really enough for that. Well, certainly not enough for 220 amps, but not really enough for the kind of load that we might be putting this under. So I'm going to make my own pigtail with an XT90 on the end. And then the other decision is how to wire this up. So you can see that we've got long cables on here, so those can go direct to the ESCs. Or these ESCs also come with what's known as race wire. This is just a little PCB basically that you can use to mount the motors to the PCB at one end, and then the PCB to the ESC at the other end. And although that's attractive, it does involve a lot of soldering, and I'm not going to do that, because with the frame kit comes a cable tidy, and you can see that fits nicely on the frame, and that's going to take the cables in a tidy way all the way to the ESC, keep them out of the way, and means sort of a bit less soldering for me. So I think that's what I'm going to do, but race wire is also a way of doing that. So just before I embark on that, before I desolder this, I'll just show you what I've done. So I actually added an LED unit on here, and this is on. You basically add it on one of the PWM outputs, but there's a solder point labeled LED. These are so there's 6 of those in series, and I've also labeled up the buzzer. Soldered up the buzzer. Because I'm going to use the BD Shop firmware, that involves using a timer on the H743 chip that you would otherwise use for the buzzer to give nice tones. So the buzzer is not going to be very functional. It'll just sort of give a beep on arming, but still, it's it's there. I think I wasn't terribly happy with this as a choice. I think maybe if I did this again, it's going to fit in the front here, and I guess it'll be a bit more visible. I think if I did it again, you can get these Maytech sort of 8 LED bars, and I think they will fit quite nicely, one on each of the arms. That would be really, really bright, but I'm not going to do that, and I'll just show you how that looks. If I can find the battery, there we go. So if you remember, the ESC was wired up to use D-shock control, so that it flashed in the ArduPilot way. There you go. And you can see that the LEDs are flashing in the same way, and they're flashing in sync, which is very nice. Quite bright, which is kind of what I wanted, but yeah, just a nice little addition there. And then, so this is a bit of a kind of juggling act here. And one of the things to bear in mind is that you need a really hot soldering iron to solder these pigtails, so that there's such an enormous amount of metal in these wires that it just takes forever to heat up. So I've got a variable temperature soldering iron, which is really what you need for this kind of stuff. I tried doing it with a regular soldering iron, it was really poor. So I'm going to get that really hot, and I'm going to do this first before doing anything else, partly because it gets so hot and I don't want to kind of melt all the components, and partly it's much easier to do when this is sort of detached. When I come to wire up the motors, I'll probably do that with the ESC partially mounted so that I can get the sizing right. And then I want to take it all off again, because I'm going to put some conformal coating just on the contacts, just to stop them sort of potentially arcing with a little bit of moisture. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do next. Solder up this pigtail.